Thank you, Kiran. It's been over a year since Laapataa came out. It feels like the accolades haven't stopped, right?
Year and a half. Yeah.
Yeah. Are we allowed to talk about another publisher? She's nominated for 24 Filmfare Awards tomorrow, that film.
Wow.
It doesn't stop.
Thank you so much, guys.
Kiran, now that you have some sort of distance from the film, is it easy to put your finger on what you think it was that made it this sort of universal, beloved film in a climate where nothing seems to be sticking? We had one big hit this year, but I think what Laapataa did, and I want to just say here, it's a film that everyone embraced. That doesn't happen very often. People are divided, and this, after very long, came this film which said important things. You didn't hit us on the head with social commentary. Made beautiful points. Had two lovely love stories in the middle of that. Introduced a bunch of actors to the business. What do you think it was about the film that people connected with?
I think you actually put your finger on it. I think it didn't shy away from being entertaining, and we went for sort of the idea that people should have fun, but it was very inclusive and didn't talk down to people. It wasn't entertainment where you leave your mind at the door, and it also I think because it sort of spoke about so many things that honestly we all know about, and ought not to have to make films on them anymore, but we actually were able to sort of explore the experiences of different kinds of women in India in a way that was not just critical of patriarchy, but inclusive in a way that we sort of came at it looking at conventional family and how women can function within that. I think because of that inclusiveness of the film, that lack of finger pointing and that lack of making villains out of people, I think that appealed to people more than anything. Also, I think what really worked was that, I think women felt very seen.
Yes.
Women, sort of really responded, and I've said this often, I think lots of women really fantasize about running away, about leaving responsibility behind, and sort of finding themselves in new places with road wide open in front of them. But also I think people were so scared that something horrible was going to happen, and they were absolutely relieved that it was a fun, relaxed film, and things turned out well.
Sorry to button. I just want to say here the other victory of the film, because you mentioned it. I feel like women across the board resonated with it and related to it, even though it's a film about women from a very specific milieu and a very specific world, and yet you spoke such universal truths and spoke about such sort of universal, I don't want to say, issue almost sounds like a bad word here, but was that your experience? Did you find that women in very different worlds and very different societies sort of related to what you were talking about, which concerned these two girls from small villages?
Yeah, Rajiv, I actually think women's experiences, strangely enough, are fairly universal across the world, not just across our, many different sort of strata of Indian society, but women have very similar experiences because broadly the world is patriarchal. Women have always had second place. Of course, in many sort of Western and developed nations, there's been a long fight for equality, for a right to kind of have equal opportunity, but it still comes at the cost sometimes of a lot of guilt, of a lot of expectation on women. And I think even when I've traveled across the world with it, women have responded fairly similarly and felt, like I said, seen. Oddly, Rajiv, I keep feeling like this film gave me feel seen. I felt when I was making this film, here was a chance for me to be able to express all the things that I've experienced, but may not be directly like this, but what marriage does to you, for instance. What it does to a woman's identity, and how, do you actually ever feel like a complete individual who has the ability to do whatever you want when you're married, especially as a woman, and also motherhood. So, I do think, in fact, interestingly, the film did really well in Japan. We won a Japanese Academy Award. So someone did think us worthy of an Academy. It played really well in Japan.
Right.
And the Japanese, the critics and the kind of journalists I spoke to had such incredible questions because they really drew so many parallels with their own society. Yeah, so I do feel like the film plays well also because it just thematically touches on so many things that women go through, whether they are working women and, flying planes, they ultimately, sometimes always have to come home and decide what's being made for dinner. Aaj kya banana hai? Or make the dinner themselves, often.
And how lovely that the film connected with as many men, because it feels like, I think what sometimes happens with very decidedly feminist films is that they're very strident in their criticism of men. But I think what you did was so gently pointed out to the men and held them accountable that the men never felt alienated and never felt this is not for us, or felt like this film's holding us accountable. Because I'm guessing that you got those responses from men as well, that who embraced the film as much. I remember sending you a rambling message after seeing it, saying this is just dil khush ho gaya. And I think most people would agree that it's really a film that warmed our hearts.
That really was the intention, because I feel the solution, or getting past so many of our problems, is only possible if we attempt it together. Of course, I feel really strongly and feel quite angry about what lots of women go through. I just think that anger, coming at the problem with anger, will just distance men from the equation, and we'd never have a playground where we can talk about things and get things done. In fact, funnily enough, a lot of men who perhaps are like proper patriarchs themselves feel that they are Ravi Kishan. They are the ones who would have definitely saved the girl. And it's really helpful because in Ravi Kishan, we were, in the character of Inspector Manohar, we were able to set up a guy who, he's on the take, he's this oily guy who kind of, super corrupt. And people loved it because most men have experienced this man. And when they see him do the right thing at the end, it's sort of a powerful suggestion that, you could do the right thing and you'd be a hero. Everybody would love you, and everybody loves Ravi Kishan, in that moment. They forgive him all the corruption.
Until then,
so that was really the idea. How can we actually create very realistic people, and there's no black and white really in anyone.
Right.
And how do we actually appeal to that goodness in people? The possibility that, you can do all these things, but maybe you can do right by the girls in your family, and unknowingly maybe you're a feminist. Let's not say that word because it gets your back up, but maybe you are.
Kiran, because this is a festival of ideas, I thought I'd ask, when you're starting a new film, when you're thinking of a new film, what comes first to you? Is it usually a character that you become fascinated by? Is it what you want to say? Is it a story that comes to you? What is the starting point usually? What is the starting idea when you're embarking on a film?
I've only made a couple, but honestly, it's really what I want to say. And characters kind of magnetically get attached to, these voices get attached to, the story that we're trying to say. So it really is what I want to actually attack and, thematically deal with. That comes to me first. It's not necessarily the best way to write a story, perhaps, because you don't want your themes on the nose. You don't want them overriding character development and, general, the kind of roundness and the deliciousness that plot should have. But I think themes and sort of what I want to say in films comes first.
Only directed 2 films, and it took you 13 years to direct your next film. You made the first one in 2010.
Yeah.
Of course, you produced a whole bunch of films in between. You raised a kid. All of that is. But why did it take so long? Are you on to the next? Do you feel encouraged by the response to this one that makes you want to go back to set soon? Though you have been on set this year, you did a little project, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I was writing right through, actually. And I like to say that, sort of life happened, marriage, motherhood, all these things can take up a big part of your creative mind. And they're very fulfilling in and of themselves. But I was writing feverishly every day. And I had so many stories. But I think I never found the right version of those stories at the right time. And you realize as you're going along, and like Padmanabh said about pulling out, like when you zoom out, you're like, these things all sort of add up to something and they help you get somewhere. And many of the characters that I wrote, now I find are burning and ready to come off the page, you know. But it was a case, I think, of a second film syndrome, somewhat, some of it, where you sort of second guess yourself, you're constantly in doubt, and you really want to attempt something much bigger than you did the first time. Partly it was that, partly it was just that struggling to get the right voice out as my second film. And I think it took me 7 years before Amir gave me the story of Laapataa Ladies. And it was a screenplay that was already written by a guy called Biplab Goswami. And it was one of those things, serendipitously. Like, I was lost and, you know, unmoored, like floating around, trying to get to the shore. It was within sight and I could just never land on the ground. And somehow this story just landed on my lap. And I felt I'd found, I knew immediately that that was what I wanted to do. So it took us 2 years before we acquired the story, then I rewrote it, then there was COVID,
Still waiting for the next one to fall into your lap, or are you in the driver's seat this time, ready to go?
No, now I'm kind of like, actually, it taught me so many lessons.
Sure.
And I'm so grateful. I actually, through COVID, did many things. I started my own company. It's called Kindling Pictures. I'm delighted to say I have a wonderful producer, partner, like a person I work with who's wonderful and also a writer. So he wrote this short that we made this year. I got divorced. Can't recommend it enough. It's a great thing to kind of like be a single person again. It feels great. And then I kind of got to make this film. It was a great period, actually. I feel like I found myself through COVID. I hate to say it, it was such a privilege to have that time to kind of hunker down and do like the work on my personal life, to do the work on my professional life. And yeah. It was a good time. So I'm not waiting another 13 years, I hope.
Right.
I'm kind of like now to like allow myself to make more mistakes, It's fine. It's like, it's totally fine. I think, and especially women, we have this imposter syndrome because always there are men in the room who like are super confident and they're like not very much smarter than you. But they're like holding fort and you're like, okay, so maybe I should read more about this. But no. You're fine, and I think I'm learning to kind of trust myself.
You made this beautiful film last year, and yet the business itself hasn't been great. I don't mean of your film, of course. I mean just generally Bollywood. I don't think anyone isn't aware that. Bollywood's in the slump, I don't want to say dumps, but it's in a slump. Why do you think, and what do you think needs to be done as a storyteller, as a creator, and as a producer who's worked on some big films? What do you think is the problem, and what are we going to need to do to repair it?
Gosh, that's a really big.
I know, how much time? I know.
How much time do you have, Rajiv? It's a tough one. The short version is actually, of course, life changed. COVID happened, life changed. People have lots of things they can watch from around the world, blah, blah. They've also now, of course, discovered films from across our country, which is amazing. Correct. I'm really happy for that. But then Bollywood kind of, which was sailing along really, sort of comfortably, is suddenly finding itself, as an also-ran. Yeah. And in that situation, I think there are two big things, one of which I don't want to discuss because I'm deeply passionate about it, is our whole general production distribution ecosystem, which needs major overhaul. Yeah. I'm like, that's a big conversation. But I think even just creatively, I feel filmmakers in Bollywood sometimes are looking to tell stories with some broad business in mind. Yeah. It doesn't feel authentic and doesn't feel like it's coming from a genuine place. And always you'll find films that have done well, have been the ones that have. Right. However despicable some of them might be, they genuinely have come from a great sense of someone's conviction. Yeah. So whether it's, this new one, Sayara, for instance. Right. I'm sure it was Mohit Suri doing what he does best.
That's the
with
one
like
thing you
full
see in the
heart.
film completely. It's got integrity, it's got conviction. Agree with it, not, but there's no question about it.
So I feel like we were trying very hard to sort of be broad and kind of appeal to everyone, but actually what we really need to do is tell our stories, appeal to ourselves first, and I feel like that's kind of become a little bit of a dying art. Like you feel like you want to tick various boxes. It feels a little more like a enterprise where everybody's trying to get that golden goose, you know. I mean, whatever. Get the golden egg, but they're killing the golden goose.
Who lays the egg.
That's what's happening.
Do you think that, with the popularity of social media and streaming, that the theatrical sort of experience, I'm not going to say dead, but it's no longer it doesn't occupy the same cultural place that it did?
I kind of feel like theaters, that's actually the big thing that which I was trying to avoid talking about. Right. But I think, apart from being hugely underserved in terms of screens, we just have like 6 screens to 1 million people. It's ridiculous. We need many, many more and affordable screens in this country. People will go.
Again, they're not going.
They're not going because of many reasons. One is that they're just not conveniently located, cheap enough, with enough of a variety of films that we would like to watch. I think what we're losing out to are people, actually, I feel more than ever, and I think there's some study somewhere that talks about this, is that people more than ever, because we are in such strange times, want to be in places where they experience things together. Yeah. So it could be a music concert, it could be a comedy show, it could be a play.
To have that collective experience.
Exactly. They want to go to restaurants, they want to go to clubs, they just don't find films as appealing anymore. And they've stopped being that habit. But if we had great programming at a great price, I know that people love going to see films. I mean, it's just that they're just not sure what's going to be playing. They can't trust it. They're waiting to hear before they go. Right. And often films don't last that long. And they're not affordable, Rajiv. It's ridiculous how expensive film going has become. So there are multiple reasons why I feel theatrical, revenues will continue to contract until we really create many, many more screens. And we are also a little more, we go back to the old MG type, rental almost system where small films can actually have their films out there. Because we put out a film called Humans in the Loop recently, which is small little art house film about AI and about, this Adivasi woman who works in a data labeling center. And it was so well received. It ran in a platform release for so long. Right. But it was impossible to give it the big theatrical release, even if it was not big, an extended theatrical release, because it's just too expensive for a small film. We have to make that cheaper, then you'd be able to go and see cool, interesting, unusual films in the cinema. But right now you're just getting the films that are, just have the money to go to a cinema.
If you could change one thing about the film business, what would you pick?
There's too many things.
I hear you.
But that one thing I would do was that I would make it mandatory for all the stakeholders of the film industry to meet like once a month, by which I mean everyone from producers to technicians and actors to distribution to exhibition to marketing, to just meet, once in a way. Yeah. Because we all belong to the same
it's such
industry.
a great idea. I feel like I've asked this question to many people and no one said that. It actually would solve. Also, I think just the feeling of all being in it together.
Being in it together. Nobody actually knows what the other people are going through. Yeah. Everyone actually views each other as competition. Yeah. The weird thing was, Laapataa Ladies released after 8 weeks on Netflix. Yeah. So we came out on the 1st of March. We were on Netflix by the 26th or 28th of April. The film was still running in cinemas. Yeah. And the footfalls in cinemas actually went up after it came on Netflix because the film blew up on Netflix. It got a lot of good word of mouth. People went to the cinemas to watch it because they were like, hey, it's still playing, let's go see it. We liked it. They saw it a second time in the cinemas, after seeing it on Netflix. We have to stop thinking of each other as competition. The real competition is gaming. Yeah. The real competition is social media. Yeah. But here we are, all looking at how we can get a little piece of this very shrinking pie, honestly. So we need to kind of get together and look at it as a creative industry. How do we actually bolster for the rest of the 21st century, forget many more centuries to come? And I think everybody feeling like they belong to the same ecosystem, having the long view on it, would greatly benefit all of us, I think.
How do you look at AI as a storyteller? Do you see it as something that will be an aid, or do you see it as something that is going to be the enemy? I know how actors feel.
No, as a filmmaker, I do feel it's going to be an aid. It's going to definitely help workflow and certain processes that are just time-consuming, tend to not, sort of get you exactly what you want. We've all struggled in this, especially the CGI, VFX workflows. I don't think it's going to entirely, obviously, replace vast numbers of people within the film industry, but it will be very disruptive. Yeah. But I do think it's something that we can't necessarily avoid, but we definitely need some guardrails around it. Today, it was so weird. Today, a friend of mine sent me a picture of I have to show it to you actually after this. It's an illustration in the New York Times, just an illustration about something, I don't know, wellness industry, something. And this person looked exactly like me. Wow. From the back. And she was like, uncanny, bro. It looked, and I looked at it immediately and I was like, so she's like, AI, they've fed in like, you are one of the, whatever, AI modeling things that they've just put. But that's actually, we've heard about this new...
The actress. Yeah.
There's no saying where it's going to go. I really feel like we need to sit down and look at it. I really encourage everybody to see Humans in the Loop. It's going to be on an OTT soon. And it really talks about how the global south is not as well represented, not at all represented in many of these innovations and the building of these algorithms. And what's going to happen is many of these processes are going to be baked into everything we use, and these prejudices that come from the people who actually, I wouldn't even say they actually do the work, because the work is being done in the global south. Like the film is actually talking about an Adivasi woman who's in a data labeling center, but the people who commission all of these things or sort of are inventing these processes are going to have their biases and their worldview built into these systems that we are just going to have to sort of accept and work with. It's a great film for everyone to watch. I'm not just plugging it because I'm an EP on it. It's a film that really engenders conversation. I think it's an important film.
Kiran, you spoke about COVID and being overwhelmed by COVID. You spoke about personal roller coaster. I want to ask, what do you do to take care of your mental health?
I've generally been a pretty positive and I've kind of been this outgoing person, and I think what helps me stay that way is having time to myself. It's almost like forest bathing that the Japanese do. I forget there's a word for it in Japanese, obviously. It helps a lot to be out in the green of anywhere, in the mountains or in my farm, or it does wonders, and I genuinely feel like everybody needs to do it. We just hugely undervalue what connections like we'll feel once we go into nature. So that's one thing I do a lot. I hang out with my son. He's an immediate sort of dopamine enhancer. He's a serotonin like sort of booster for me. I love music. I go to gigs a lot. I love art. I go to art shows. Connecting with people has been proven to be great for your mental health. In fact, one of these articles I was reading recently was like saying how we tend to try to do a lot of our basic tasks, daily tasks on our own, and how much more fun they'd be if you had to do them with friends, and that you should try and make it a habit to kind of even, go to the farmer's market with your friends. Right. Suddenly just that, what would be a chore of buying your, groceries, weekly vegetables would be fun. I genuinely love being around people and my friends, and they help me stay sane.
You're single? Are you on dating apps?
Oh, I tried with little success, and I blame the dating apps entirely. I've been on the apps. Yeah, I had one disastrous date, if you must know. For another time.
What's been the lowest low and the highest high?
I don't know, highest high, I'm really not that person. The lowest low, I mean, you can go through these lowest lows and highs in the course of a day.
Sure.
You know? So I don't have any of those. I genuinely it's weird and I feel like it'll sound super cliched, but I feel so happy to be alive every day. I have elderly parents and I'm really grateful that I have them every day. Then there'll be the days when you're like, the writing's going really badly and it's the lowest low in the same day. So I don't really have any of those. I think I didn't realize it at the time, but the first time I took Azad into my arms was like amazing, but that high has stayed, it feels almost. So, I don't know, I've been lucky, I guess. I've not had terrible lows, but
Last year you did the Oscar thing, the Oscar campaign. Laapataa what was your experience taking Laapataa as the Indian entry, and what did that involve? What are the learnings? What's the advice you'd give to Team Homebound that's on that journey now?
Yeah, I'm so excited for Homebound. I think they have an amazing, I feel, chance, and they're a great film. Honestly, we were a film that was in some ways at a disadvantage because we'd already released. Right. We were already on Netflix, and in many ways it helps if you're a brand new, fresh film that people are discovering. Right. You know, the experience we had while it was like incredibly intense was really great. We met amazing people. Yeah. We connected with, people from the Academy who came to watch the film. We had lovely feedback. People enjoyed watching the film. But it's also really difficult in that we didn't have, because most films that are going to the Academy are gearing up for release. So they are coming on the backs of a big festival and then big campaigns, and that momentum is carrying them towards the Academy. But here we were like sort of the outliers, in the whole game. But we got a great response, and I have to say we genuinely loved the whole process. It's about putting your film in front of as many members as possible, and then it's hard to do because it's also pretty expensive, and the campaigns that people mount are really huge.
I mean, to be fair, most of the films that are backed by US distribution, big studios, either the indie arms of the big studios, or the big streamers. Yeah. So this was a journey that you all took yourselves.
So we were an independent film. Yeah. So honestly, that was difficult. We were kind of swimming against the tide. So my advice to Homebound would only be, ideally get US distribution, exactly like you said, get a US sales agent, because they automatically have access to the people that need to watch it and the voters, etc. And then just enjoy it, because honestly it's built within the Hollywood ecosystem really for films to get a platform to be noticed and then go out there and be released. So for you as an Indian film, it's really like go out there, make the best of that campaign, enjoy it, connect with as many people as you can, because maybe your marketing budget will never be even a fraction of the big films that are competing in your category. We had Emilia Perez in our category, and their marketing budget was like 100 times. Just enjoy it. I think they're going to do fine. They also have an EP who's a legend, like Martin Scorsese. So that makes a huge difference when you kind of have someone in your corner from Hollywood. It helps a lot.
Did you meet, you guys were in LA a lot last year. Did you meet interesting people, interesting filmmakers? Did you have great conversations, great dinners?
Yeah, what I really loved was connecting with the South Asian and Asian community there. It's grown so much in the last 10 years. They're so cool, so supportive. Lots of great filmmakers from, obviously they're all now American, Canadian, but like from India or Pakistan or Bhutan or, Korea, China, all over the world actually. And there's a lot of support you feel for Asian films now. There's a lot more interest. There's a lot of kind of solidarity around that, and especially among South Asians. And that feels really great because we haven't been known to support ourselves as much, We're kind of the ones who are sort of wanting to please outsiders much more, but it's cool to see South Asians there making their mark, also sticking to the kinds of stories that they would like to tell within that environment. So very, very cool filmmakers and actors and people that I met.
Any words of wisdom or caution for younger people in India who want to be in the film business, who want to become storytellers, given that you've charted the path?
Today's generation of filmmakers, I should ask for advice because I don't know what's going on, honestly.
Aspirants?
Out there.
Aspirants?
No, I'm being facetious. No, I would 100% advise that there's so much out there and it's so easy to get into that race for eyeballs, race for race for sort of, followers and all the rest of it, that you tend to forget why we make films. Films are, I'd hate to say sacred or anything like that, but they are one of the great art forms. They are one of those incredible sort of inventions that includes all the 8 great art forms in it. So film and cinema is something that deserves, exploration, it deserves study, it deserves invention. Get in there with the idea of reinventing the medium. And look for what you bring to it, because ultimately it's your journey in cinema that's important. Cinema will be the richer for your journey. So I would really say, come at it from a place of authenticity with excitement and love.
And before we wrap this up, Kiran, what do you hope that when one reads the words a Kiran Rao film or a film by Kiran Rao, what would you like that to mean to a viewer?
I've had such an amazing response with Laapataa Ladies. I feel so loved. People I meet, like literally anywhere, treat me like, like they know me.
Yeah.
And I think that's an enormous blessing, and I feel really, really grateful for that. And I would love that to be the case with any film I make. I feel like people should feel like, how you'd feel about, like, I love this person. I want to see their film. That's what I would love. For them to come because they, appreciate me. And they'd like to see what I do. How you feel about any artist that you love and you look forward to their next album. Or
I'll watch anything that they do.
Yeah, I just want to see what they're doing next. That's such a privilege.
Lovely. Cannot wait to see what you do next. A true hero. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kiran. All the best.